All right, let's start the work session and get an update on the current council goals, where we are in preparation for our council goal discussion tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so anyone who's watching tonight knows, we're going to go through an overview of our last 3 goals and what have been accomplished over the course of those goals' lifespan. And then we will go over the general guidelines for goals, what a goal is and how we get there. And then we will be going to the dinner break, it sounds like. So the discussion with council will be happening during the regular session. And we will also be doing a regular meeting starting at 6 p.m. Okay, so with that, I will start to share. Okay. The City Council currently has 3 goals. Those goals are climate action, housing affordability, and equity. We're going to go over a brief overview of each of the accomplishments from each of those, just because honestly we're not always great about remembering all the amazing work we've done, and we just wanted to do a little bit of a celebration before we move off of this discussion into what you want to move forward with. So we're going to start with climate action today. First and foremost, the climate action work started with the creation of the climate action plan. I believe Councillor Heisey was actually on that with the mayor prior to becoming a council member here. That outlined a large number of items that we were going to try and accomplish in order to support the climate initiatives that need to happen globally. So we then moved into inclusion of climate and energy goals in the comprehensive plan. That was a huge piece of the work over the last couple of years, is just making sure that we were actually addressing the environmental components of our land use. And then we also expanded the natural resource goals. We did add a climate impact section to the city staff reports with council, so that we're talking about, even when we often do things such as building a more efficient building. That's really great, but the life cycle impacts of that have to also be calculated, and we need to have discussions and be thorough in our assessment. So we did come up with a way to start making that clearer to council with everything that we're working on, especially with anything that's construction. For the electricity portfolio, that really has been a huge part of our focus. Last year, we passed a Portland General Electric Memorandum of Understanding that outlines that PGE is going to work with the city to actually accomplish the goals that are outlined in the Climate Action Plan. Council passed a home energy score program that has been underway now for the last couple of years, and that is going great. We are, because we see such high turnover on our houses right now, we are starting to see more and more houses that are using the energy score program. Thanks to the work of the mayor and Councilor Heisey, HB 2021 was approved. That's the piece that's going to allow the city to create an opt-out carbon-free electricity product for our residential customers. So that's a citywide product, not just a city-specific product. And I just realized I didn't put on here, and will add, that we also transitioned the city project, all the city energy, to a renewable plan and program. So that one needs to be added, but that's been accomplished. The council actually, right before I got here, set a 2.2 megawatt solar goal. We reached that goal and we've now exceeded it. We're currently, we think, about 2.37 megawatts, which is huge. I think at the time when we were discussing that, we were all sort of terrified by it, but thanks to the work of the mayor and other developers in the region, we've seen an incredible amount of solar going to our community.
I just wanted to mention, I don't know if other people saw it, but I raised it to Natalie and Peter, and they weren't even aware of it. Bob's Red Mill has put solar on top of everything.
Yeah, that was a little while ago. There's a really big array going up in the industrial area here at the end of the year, I think.
Yeah.
So this number keeps climbing. It's a lot of this is now self-fulfilling, right? You talk about a business making the choice even without us, which is great. That's exactly what we hope will happen, and we hope that this will continue to grow. Fleet electrification and on-site fuel transition. So for the fleet electrification, we're at the point where the vehicles that can transition have transitioned here at the city. And we're watching as new vehicles are coming online that can transition moving with those as well. The heavy fleet at this point is the one that we're gonna struggle with until we come up with different technologies. But I just wanna give kudos to Damien and to Peter for moving our fleet so quickly. The Electric Avenue, it was installed off of Main Street. We see that it's being used all the time, so it's great to have such an easy resource for electric car users. We're a part of the Smart Grid Testbed community, which has been work we've been doing for the last several years. And I do just want to call out, because it's kind of fun, that all at council actually has a electric or a hybrid vehicle. I have an electric vehicle. I think that there's also a lot of leadership in showing that you all have taken this goal so seriously for our community as well. Natural resources have been a key part of this discussion, and it's a lot of the work that you're gonna see rolling out starting in December. But the adoption of the public tree code was a big deal. We found a pilot recently that discussed the tree code that they were working on in 1991, and they were really hoping that they were gonna get it into place. It looks like we're finally going to accomplish some work that's been long desired by our community, which is the near completion of the private property tree code. That's expected in December of this year. Adoption of the urban forest management plan, and adoption of a city polystyrene and bag ban. Did I miss anything on climate that you all want to make sure that I talk? This is an incredible list. I just want to point out that this is a lot of work for a small team.
Well, and truly, our SAFE program was started in part on a climate basis. It was definitely safety, definitely livability, equity, all the things. But climate is a big piece on that, and we see that every day in the construction around the city, so that's ongoing.
Completion of the 17th Avenue.
17th Avenue bike path.
Yeah, there's a lot of transportation, active transportation projects we've completed that are too numerous to mention.
I am writing these down as we go, and I will put them on this. You know, I didn't put the library on here.
Yes, that's what I was
The
thinking.
library and the solar installation there is a big one.
Absolutely. Absolutely, especially considering what we know about the systems of the old library.
Yeah, using one-fifth of the energy.
Also known as the duct tape of the old library.
Yes.
And there's ongoing work with like the REACH code and things like that, where we've helped create a coalition of other cities that I think I'm feeling positive that we'll be able to get that one through in the next session. So there's lots of stuff happening. We still have lots of stuff to do on climate.
No, and just to be clear, tonight, all I'm doing is talking about the amazing work that y'all have accomplished already. So this isn't talking about forward thinking, because that's your discussion this after dinner. Okay, so housing. So we needed to create a system. Alma Flores should be called out for exceptional work early on in this process. The development of the Milwaukee Housing Affordability Strategy was a huge part of creating the roadmap about where we were going to go and what we needed to get done. We had multiple community and expert task forces and committees to ensure alignment of housing projects and with community goals, including CET, comprehensive plan, and the MHOS development. So it was a very, this has been to date a very community-centered process, which has actually helped with its success, which has been great. And thank you, I should say, to all the volunteers who served on all those panels. Prioritization of middle housing and the new comprehensive plan, I think that's been a huge part of the comprehensive plan work over the last couple of years. Expedited adoption of the new residential zoning code and map or expected adoption of the new residential zoning code and map in the December 2021. So that is right around the corner. And then we did the cottage cluster feasibility analysis just to start figuring out what actually works in the code before we got to the code. Construction projects, Hillside Master Plan with Clackamas County is completed. We are expecting that they're going to start down their path for construction. They have already done the tower. Sounds like the tower is going to be completed here in the next couple months.
Oh, really?
Mayor?
I had no
Yeah,
idea.
I think they were talking about doing an open house soon.
Wow. Oh, we haven't been getting
Like a
updates
month
on
or
that.
something.
Okay.
So they will be in touch with all of you. They've said that they will be inviting you to their open house and ribbon cutting when that facility is ready. But when we talk about Hillside Master Plan, at this point, we're really talking about the property around the manor and the additional density that's going to be used. Sparrow property was purchased, the initial engineering for access has been completed, and purchase of a second TriMet lot is in process. Development of a 5-story mixed-use development on Main Street. We forget that this all happened feels like right before the pandemic. We opened the building and the plaza in November prior to the pandemic. Several hundred market and middle housing units are in the pipeline. So we have a number of large-scale developments that are coming.
Actually, I did some math last night and this morning, and if all the things come on that have applied, and I'm not talking about things where there are no applications, but if Monroe is revitalized, comes back at the same number, if Coho and if the Kellogg Bowl site, we will have built over 1,500 apartments since 2016, almost doubling the number of apartments that existed when they did the housing needs analysis.
Plus there's the apartments going in at Waverly.
Well, I include, that's all in the list I compiled, so, yeah.
And did you include the
Northwest Housing and the
Providence?
the Providence and the one on Rusk Road,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
So we've also been incentivizing housing. And we've done that in a few ways. First, the construction excise tax should not be minimized. Passing a tax that actually will allow for ongoing securing of housing is a big deal. So we've done the development and adoption of the ordinance, community task force to develop the criteria, substantial completion of program implementation and monitoring tools. So it's been a substantial lift. The vertical housing tax credit program was early in Almost Time Here. And it does help incentivize the kind of multifamily that we were looking for with commercial on the base. ADU fee reduction pilot program, abated property taxes for a local nonprofit affordable housing owner, that was Northwest Housing Alternatives. And then we've been helping those in crisis. So we also we amended the code to allow for shelters for warming, cooling, and hazardous air quality. We did the COVID rental assistance program and the COVID utility assistance program.
Did any churches do cooling shelters?
This year, no,
In the heat event in the end of June? No.
not in Milwaukee. But they have been doing the warming, they did the warming ones back in the winter. Okay, what did I miss on housing?
Deafening silence.
We
Must be
we were involved in the creation of the Metro Affordable Housing Bond and getting that passed.
And passage of 2001 and 2003.
Yeah, and I don't know how to characterize it, but Angel serving on the HB 2003 committee, whatever that was called. Maybe just a lump, ongoing engagement in regional and state level housing advocacy efforts.
I think those were the major ones. If you think of something tonight or tomorrow, yeah.
Well, we also bought another TriMet remnant lot, which is now the food cart pod. I don't know if you want to call that out there.
That was
That was prior.
Was it? Okay.
Affordable housing, we bought that at the
I wasn't
end of the
sure when.
construction project.
That was it's a great catch. It was for the market.
I thought the city owned that before. The city bought that?
They
We went.
may have
bought it
passed through our
twice.
hands at one point, but
We bought it twice,
We bought it twice.
they owned it during the construction.
except for they didn't. So then we had to buy it.
Councilor Faulkner's surface had to reboot, so she is dropped from the meeting.
Okay. You want to wait a minute?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know how long it's gonna take her. Just so you know.
Next will be equity.
We should talk about how long those two, did you say, I didn't catch it, how long those two have been goals?
I didn't say, and partially because I can remember. So housing became a goal right as the first January when I was here.
Both housing and climate became goals at the same time.
Because we did the climate action plan first, and then you modified it to be actually more than the
But
plan.
we did the climate action plan while we were doing the MOS. I mean, they were both happening simultaneously.
Totally. The goal just shifted.
So that's January of 2018,
Now 17.
17.
So 4 years.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back, Counselor. Okay, so we are now on equity. This one has been a goal for 1 year, which is hard to believe. And we've been doing a lot of setup. So the first year of the goal is typically more of the setup work. We held the internal and external listening sessions. We created a community advisory, or we're in the process, we created a community advisory group for our police policies and are in process of amending those policies now. Trained all staff and council on equity-related topics. Adopting a new equity steering committee ordinance in August. Initiated review of the human resource policies, helped host Milwaukee's first Juneteenth event. We're supporting Milwaukee's second Pride Parade, and we've implemented recruitment and hiring practice changes around equity. So that is where we're at today. Part of the discussion that makes this a little different is that we don't yet have the goal, the plan. That plan is going to be built with the new equity steering committee, and so that's part of why I don't know where we're going as much on that, just because that's gonna be community work to help drive us there. So those are the three pieces these are the three goals I have now. Is there anything I missed on equity for this? We also hired Jen.
I was gonna say, yeah.
But each of these, we hired staff people to do this, so I didn't wanna call out one in particular, but we hired staff people for all of these, we've hired consultants to do a lot of this work. All of these have involved community representation in the development of the goal project list and where we're going. And so we're just really still early in the equity one for me to be able to say that piece of it, but we will be starting that this fall. And actually, while I'm sitting here, this is a good reminder, thank you to Natalie Rogers and to Peter Passarelli for all the climate work over the years. Thank you to Alma Flores, to Layla Aman, to Valeria, to Christina, to Erin, to Allison, to all the people who have really made these goals fly. It has been an incredible project or process to work with our staff on over the years. So it's been really delightful. So if you think of anything else, let me know. So for the community more than for council, this is how we typically do goal setting. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about this for a minute. Goals are typically a 4-1 or a 5-0 council vote. And I want to talk about why for a minute. We asked for a supermajority because a lot of the policies within what we have to do aren't universally wanted. So the goal here is to have most people at least trying to reach the outcome together. So even if we lose someone on a vote, we still are moving generally projects forward to the accomplishment of the goal. So that has been why in the past we've asked for a 4-1 or a 5-0 vote. The goals typically last for 2 years before reconsideration.
I don't think we've been very consistent about that, but.
Well, and
Okay.
that's why it's a typical. It's not a requirement, it's a typical. And you all can change that, it's just to let the community know. Typically, I talked about this as a 2-year thing, so that we hire people, we start the work, we get through the work before we reconsider it, because otherwise it takes us a solid year to get through that initial part of getting someone on board and getting the pieces pulled together. Council selects up to 3 goals. And the biennium budget includes increased financial and staff resources towards council goals. That's actually why we limit them, is to make sure we can fund and staff the goals that we need to fund and staff. And yes,
And one of the ways that goals stop being goals and start being just a program within the city is when we create some kind of financial process to fund those. For example, one of the preceding goals, two of the preceding goals to the ones we currently have are building a library, which we passed a bond measure and built the library, and the SAFE program, which we created the SAFE fee, and now we are building out, and then we bonded against that money, and we're building out those. So they no longer needed to be council goals because they were financed and established as just part of what we do. And ideally, that's what we would make happen with each of the goals, is to make sure that, unless it's some short-term thing like, getting rid of Kellogg Dam. Obviously, that doesn't need to be an ongoing program within the city, but a lot of these will, right? Climate work, for as long as the rest of us are alive, we will be working on that. Housing, probably the same, So we need to establish some kind of funding mechanism in order to continue that work, and then it can come off council goal and continue.
I think there are some assumptions embedded in what you're saying there, but otherwise, sure, we'll continue.
I think that the only thing that I would amend on that is that sometimes there are policy-only related items. We haven't chosen goals like that, but sometimes it would be a policy-only related item where the council over time could actually put something into place that didn't require maintenance ongoing, it didn't require staff leadership, it just needed to get done. We haven't typically done those, but that is an alternative here too. Okay, so that leaves me with just one slide, which is that. So you all are gonna fill this in. But if you want to, we can, we're at 5:32, so we can go eat some dinner. And then come back at 6 o'clock. For the regular meeting, we'll take a 2-minute break between, or 5-minute break between the regular meeting and goal setting, just to make sure that the cameras work. Does that work?
Aren't both on camera? I don't guess I understand.
Different cameras,
Oh, okay.
because we now have one going through the Zoom computer.
Ah,
So
okay.
it just changes which one we're working with.
Right. Well, then we are adjourned in the work session, and we'll see everybody back in a half hour.
Actually get to eat dinner.
It looks to me like you have a bottle of capers there. I'm like, are you
That's
just
her
gonna
dinner.
swig some capers?